In this video I'm going to show you around OpenShot. It's the video editing software that I use. You can use any video editing software that you can get your hands on, but this is the one that I use. They all work very, very similarly. So this should be the view that you get when you open it up. You've got the project files window here, the preview window, and the timeline. I will show you the bits that you need to know to create a short, simple video with 3 clips and a title. And I'll show you all the controls as we go along, because it will just waste time me going through every control and confusing you. I don't use every single feature on here. I'm going to try and keep this simple for you as well. You'll notice down the bottom here there are 3 tabs. There's transitions, effects and project files. You won't need the transitions and effects at all. Okay, so the project files window will show all the files that you are using in this project. Video preview will show you the video that's playing, and the timeline is where you do all your editing. So let's bring in our first clip and I'll show you how to play about with that and do some editing on it. So the easiest way to do it is to simply drag it from your file explorer into the timeline. You could go to the file menu here and choose import files, or the shortcut for that is here. But the easiest way I found is simply to just drag it straight in. So the first clip we're going to use is Sally singing Praise is Rising. There we go. You notice I just dragged it in and it's dropped straight into there. So this is now in the timeline. You can control the timeline in many different ways. This is the playhead. So this is very much like a tape recorder and a playhead. You can drag it along, move it to wherever you need it to be in the timeline, and find the right bit that you need to cut things at. You can zoom in and out of the timeline here using the plus and minus buttons. You can see here that every increment is 10 seconds at this level of zoom, so obviously the little ones are 5, but you can zoom right out and see the whole clip, or you can zoom right in to 1 second for really, really fine, detailed editing. Sorry, I'll zoom in to around 15 seconds, maybe 10. You'll notice that the clip has a red border around it. That means that clip is the active clip, and that's the one that you're working on. So any things that you do will happen to that clip. If I click off it, you'll see it's blue. So any cuts and things like that won't happen to that. You need to make sure, if you, for example, if you select all the clips so that you can move them around in one batch, make sure you then that you only activate the clip that you want to edit on. Otherwise it will perform the same function on all the clips. I've already started muddying the waters, I do apologise. Okay, you'll notice when I hover over the clip there's a little cross. That means you can, if you click on that and drag it around, you can move that clip around. So anywhere you like. Okay, you'll notice there are some tracks here. There are 5 tracks. The higher the number of track, the higher the priority that track will take in the finished video. So if I was to put another video clip here and on the track 5, you would be able to see that video and hear it, but it would obscure Praise is Rising. You would be able to hear Praise is Rising, but you wouldn't be able to see it. Okay, so that's how you use things like, that's how you have voiceovers and things like that. or you can overlap clips. So as I say, we can move this around to wherever we want it to be. I'll just drag it so that the start of that clip is at the start of our video, and I'll move the playhead to the start using this control here. It's really simple. It's just like a tape recorder. Play, right to the end, right to the other end, fast forward and rewind. I don't use fast forward and rewind, so you might find that's easiest to use, but I don't use them at all. You'll notice this is a really big window. We don't need it that big. You'll also notice that the Praise is Rising clip has dropped into there, just to let us know that we are using it. You can change the size of any of these windows if you click on these dots here when the cursor changes to that. So I'm going to make that smaller because we don't need it that big. You'll notice that's made the video preview window bigger. Unfortunately, I'm going to make that smaller now so that I can see a little bit more of the timeline. But this is simply personal preference. It really is. Okay, so if I press play, you'll see the start of the clip. Now, if memory serves, Sally has done a spoken introduction to this song, because I believe it was 2 songs together that I've split up. So we actually want to get rid of that because it's not now relevant to our to the clips we are editing together. But let's just double check.
Let's sing 2 songs together.
Yep, I was correct. Go me. Sally very helpfully, as per instructions, has left a little bit of time at the beginning, which I know feels awkward when you're filming it, but is really, really helpful for when you're editing it, because it means we can fade the clip in really nicely. And the more space we've got, the more we've got to work with. But we want to cut out all this speaking. Now, if I'm right, I think Sally has about a minute's worth of talking. So if I move the playhead to 50 seconds, simply by clicking on the 50-second mark, and then pressing play, we'll check to where we're up to. You could just watch the whole clip and figure out where it goes, but this saves a little bit of time if you know the clips.
There is no fear. Yep. Cast out fear.
Right, so Sally starts playing there. Okay, and she says he casts out fear, and then she starts playing. So we want to get the playhead to that point so that we can make a cut. Oops, sorry. So we move that back to there.
No fear, because he casts out fear.
So I've paused that there, where Sally says he casts out fear. And we're going to cut this this video now. There's 2 ways of doing that. You could use the razor tool up here, which confusingly has a pair of scissors as its symbol. But the easiest way that I find is the way that I'm going to show you now. The razor tool can be a little clumsy. The way I'm going to show you guarantees that it will cut exactly where the playhead is. So as per any computer program, if you're familiar with computers in any way, you'll know that when you right click on an object, it will bring you up sort of a sub menu of the most frequently used and useful tools for that item, and this is no different. So if you right click on this clip here, anywhere, it doesn't really matter, you'll notice this menu comes up, and there's all sorts of things to do here. We can copy the clip, we can animate it. I've never used that. What we're interested in here is the slice function. Okay, so there's 3 options here. When you go to slice, you can slice it and keep both sides. You can slice it and keep just the left side, so the introduction talky bit. But what we want to do is keep the right side. So if I click on that, you'll notice it's sliced it there and it's got rid of that. So it's a quicker way as well. If you were to use the razor tool, you'd cut it and then you'd highlight this clip and then you'd press delete and it would get rid of it. The useful thing about this is it is what we call non-destructive. So although that has been sliced and got rid of, it isn't in the bin, it hasn't gone anywhere. If we can drag the beginning of this clip back out and it will show the whole clip again. So you'll notice that's the cross where you can move stuff around. But if you hover over the beginning of the clip, the cursor changes to those two arrows. And if you click and drag, I could drag the whole thing right out. So that's right back to the beginning again. Obviously we don't want to do that. We want it where it was. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it out there and press undo, just so that I get it back to where it needs to be. Okay, so if we bring that to the beginning of the video, move our cursor to the start and press play, we won't have any of the talking and Sally should just start playing straight away. Brilliant. There we go. Another useful function on here is these two controls here. So these are the marker controls, and it takes you to the next marker or the previous marker. When you are editing a clip, if the clip is highlighted and the surround is red, the beginning and the end of the clip are automatically designated as markers. So I can go right to the end of the clip here by pressing next marker. These are different from these here, although in this case it will perform the same function because we've only got one clip, and therefore that's the end of the video and that's the beginning of the video. But if we had multiple clips, you can take it to the end of the clip rather than the end of the video. If we wanted to find a specific spot in the video, for example, we wanted to put a title or some subtitles at a specific point, or a little banner at the bottom at a specific point in the video, we can manually add a marker. So say I wanted to add a marker at the 40-second mark for some bizarre reason. If you move the cursor to there, you can click add marker, which is this symbol here, and if I move the cursor, you'll notice there's a little teardrop thing here, and that's simply the marker. So if I click on this, that will take us straight to that marker, straight to there. It helps you to just work quickly with things. If you don't want that marker anymore, you simply right click on it and remove marker. Dead easy. That's really useful for when you're queuing up song words and things like that. Okay, you can also click on that as you are playing it. So say we wanted to mark exactly where Sally starts singing. You press play, hover over this. There we go. I clicked on that as soon as Sally started singing, and that's exactly where Sally starts singing. Again, for things like putting song words on and stuff like that. Okay, so we found the beginning of the clip. It's a bit of an abrupt start to our video. If you've seen any of St James's videos, you'll know that I like to fade videos in, just so it's a bit of a soft start. It's not 100% necessary, but it's my preference. I just think it looks better and feels better and helps pace the videos a little bit better. So we're also going to put a title at the beginning of this, and we don't want the title over what Sally's doing, so we'll have a bit of a gap at the beginning. So let's move the clip about, we don't want a 10-second title card, maybe a 5-second title card. So if we bring that to 5 seconds, move that to there, you'll notice the clip snaps to wherever the playhead is quite nicely. So we'll have a title card and we'll get straight into the song. However, again, that will be a very abrupt start because it will simply go darkness and straight in. So we're going to fade this video in. You might have noticed when I right clicked before to split it, that there's a fade function. So again, we'll right click here, up at the top here. We can fade in the start of the clip, the end of the clip, the entire clip. What we want to do here is fade in the start of the clip, and we want to fade it in slowly. It's just a little bit nicer than a fast fade. This is why I ask people to put some space at the beginning and the end of videos so that we can fade in slowly. If needs be, we'll use a fast fade, but I prefer to use a slow one. So there we go. You'll notice on the clip here there's two little green marks there now. So that's where the start of the fade is, and that's where the end of the fade is. So here we go. So that has faded in quite nicely. We don't need to now watch the entire clip because we know that Sally's done a good job. Also, I like to try and keep things fresh as well so that the service hasn't been spoilt for me by watching everything a dozen times. We want to just check the end of the clip and fade the end of the clip out at exactly the right time now. So I've zoomed out slightly, you'll have noticed. I'm going to move to the end of the clip here, but I'm going to go a little bit further in, and I'm just going to watch the end of the clip and see where a nice place to fade that out is.
Yes, Lord. Thank you that you are here with us. You will never leave us. And your perfect love casts out our fear. In Jesus' name, amen.
Ah, right. So there's a prayer at the end here, which is lovely. We might not want the prayer. If we don't want the prayer, we can edit that out. It won't be easy, but we will. Here we go. So if we find exactly the bit before Sally starts talking.
Yes, Lord.
Now that overlaps with the fade out of the actual song. So let's find that bit there. You can see that Sally's about to start talking there. Might be a little bit too difficult to get rid of this, so I think we won't. We'll keep the clip. I could go back to the start there. You'll notice if I move the playhead along very, very slowly. That's just where Sally starts. What I could do here is I could drag the clip in here, fade it out, fade the end of the clip out slowly, and go to volume and fade the end of the clip out slowly. There. Let's see what that looks like. That's not bad, actually. Yeah, let's keep that. So there we go. So that's what I did. I found just before where Sally starts speaking, and just in case I got that a little bit wrong, I faded the volume out just before the end, and the volume is just in this menu here. So fade only does the visuals, volume obviously does the end. You can change the level of the volume as well here. So if a clip is too loud, you can take it down. The tricky thing with this is you notice you can only take it, you can't take it above 100%. So you have to find your quietest clip and then take everything else down to the level of your quietest clip, and that's where things get tricky, but we won't get too far into that in this video. Okay, so if I zoom out slightly, we've got Sally fading in, Sally fading out. Let's put a title at the beginning here, just so that it doesn't look weird, sort of hanging in space. The easiest way to do this, or the only way, sorry, to do this is, unsurprisingly, we go to the menu at the top here. We go to the title. You need a special extra bit of software to use animated title, so we just use title here. That brings up this little window here. And there's all sorts of title templates. The one that I use for St James is this one here, Grey Box 4. The imaginatively titled Grey Box 4. You'll see, here it is. You can change the text on the title here, where it says the title. Simply highlight the title and put in St James Worship. That's what I usually put, St James Worship, and then I put the date. And today is the 2nd of January. But that's not when the service would be. You'd put whenever the service would be, obviously. 2021 of all things. And that's lovely. I like to change the font to match our website. The font we use on our website is a font called Avenir. There it is. Not all computers have Avenir, so I would suggest changing it to Arial or to Calibri if you're on a Mac. There we go. And that's really simple. Strangely, changing the size and things is doesn't really do a lot. I'm not quite sure why. You could change the text colour, and the background colour, annoyingly, doesn't change the grey box, it changes this. But when it's black like this, it's actually transparent. Okay, so if we press save, that says what we needed to say, it's in the right font. Press save, you'll notice the title has appeared here, and it's simply a picture. So I'm going to drag that down there, right to the beginning. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Let's take that to there. Just going to zoom in. Okay, that overlaps quite nicely there. We're going to fade this in and we're going to fade it out. You'll notice if I move the playhead here, can you see how it's the black, what looks like black on here is actually transparent, and it's just shown the grey box there. But what we're going to do is we're going to fade this in and out, and the quickest way to, you could go to fade, start of clip, fade in slow, end of clip, fade in slow, but you can go to entire clip, fade in and out slow. And there you can see fades into there and out from there. Let's have a look, see what this looks like. Nice. Okay, so that gives us a nice little bit of space, nice little bit of a lead in, so it's not straight in with the song, and lets us know where we're up to. Right, I want to go to the end of here now, so I'll use this and go to the end. And let's put in the talk. Okay, I'm going to zoom out because I know this talk's probably going to be quite long. It's going to be longer than the 3 minutes 45. It's probably going to be about 20 minutes. Let's bring this back. We're going to use one of Jenny's talks. Simply drag that into there. Off we go. And what you'll see here is literally it will stop playing Sally's clip and start playing Jenny's clip. Sorry, I've zoomed out so far that there we go. And then Jenny starts. Okay, and Jenny again very helpfully has put in plenty of lead time. Let's start here. There we go. you get very adept at noticing when people are taking a breath to start. So I'm just going to move the playhead back a little bit from where Jenny's about to start, and then give her, if we zoom in, we can give her a couple of seconds before that so that we can zoom in, so that we can fade in, sorry. So let's give her actually 3 seconds. So each one of these is 3 seconds. So if we go to there. There we go. That's 3 seconds. We'll right click, slice that and keep the right side. Yes, the right side. Terrible when I don't know my left from my right. Here we go. We'll drag that across so that it butts up against Sally's thing. We will right click, start of clip, fade in slow. Let's see how that looks.
In those days following that distress.
Lovely. That just gives us a little bit of time to go, oh, the song's finished, now we're on to something different, rather than Jenny starting as soon as the clip is. So we've cut that off slightly, we've faded that in, and that's really simple. We haven't done any crossfades. It's faded to black and then it's faded in from Jenny. Really, really simple, which is nice. You'll notice Jenny's clip is a little bit quieter than the singing, so we could take the singing down a little bit. So if we go to volume and we'll do entire clip, and we'll do the entire clip at about 70%. Sounds about right. Let's see if they're similar volumes now.
In those days following that distress.
It's actually not. It's still quite quiet compared. So let's take the volume down to about 40%, and let's see how that sounds. Doesn't sound any quieter to me, actually.
In those days.
Okay, let's reset the volume on Sally. An easier way, or a better way of doing this, you can increase the volume of a clip using a different method. You have to be careful with this, because if you increase it too much it starts to distort. But very simple way is if you right click on here and go to properties, you'll notice it opens a brand new window here. Now I use this window a lot for some quite advanced things, but we don't need to worry about that. All you need to worry about is that the cursor is at the start of the video, and you'll notice the volume here is that it's at 1, and that means 100%. So if we take Jenny up to 200%, so simply 2, that should be a little bit louder.
In those days following that distress.
That's much louder, but still not quite enough. Let's take her up to 300%.
In those days following that distress.
That's better. That's much better. Okay. Once you've done that, you can close this window if you need to. And that just gives you a better view of everything else. Okay, so I'm now going to zoom out of here and skip to the end of Jenny's thing, and then zoom back in again to about 10 seconds. And let's find the end of where Jenny where Jenny's finished speaking. Again, Jenny generally leaves quite a lot of space at the end, which again is very, very helpful because it means you can do more with it. It's very difficult to make it look good if you see somebody reaching round the camera there. Sometimes it's necessary, you have to fade it out there, but I would much prefer just to fade it out on their lovely smiling face. So let's find the end of this clip.
Generation, what it's like to live through 2020. One day Jesus will return, just as he promised. We don't know when either will happen, but for both events we wait in hope and trust in God. Amen.
Right, so that's where she stops. She says Amen.
Trust in God. Amen.
So that's it. That's where we could finish it. But it's nice to have a little bit of space. So I tend to give about 2 or 3 seconds, depending on the pace of the speaker as well.
But for both events, we wait in hope.
It's almost musical.
Trust in God. Amen.
2, 3, 4. There. That's quite a nice place to stop it. So let's slice that off there. This time we want to keep the left side. And we can fade that out. End of clip. Fade out slow. Let's see what that looks like.
Trust in God. Amen.
Amen. Beautiful. Okay, let's have our next song. That's really simple. So I've not had to listen to anything that Jenny's done in the middle there. That's kept it nice and fresh for me. However, if there are any mistakes made by whoever's speaking, I wouldn't know about it. So I've never thought of this, but it's probably best to ask people to say if they did make a mistake and they needed us to edit it out, then to let us know. Okay, so we've got our title, we've got our first song, and we've got Jenny's talk. So let's get the last song in now, and we're going to use Oceans and Waymaker by yours truly. So let's drag that into there. There we go. Beautiful. Now, if I'm right, I do quite a long introduction here. It starts quite abruptly, but I do a very long introduction. So what might be quite nice here is to overlap this with Jenny's preaching, so that when Jenny says Amen, that's when the song kicks in proper. So let's find the start of the song. So that's where I start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip this clip to there. So just before where it kicks in. And I'm going to move this down to track 3. Okay. And butt that bit up against there. So it should be Amen, fade out into the song. Now we could do it just simply like that, and cut that introduction out completely. But we're not going to. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that back out again, so that now I will start playing while Jenny's still speaking, but you won't see me, you'll only hear me. And I will be very loud, because the music is always louder than the speaking, but we can remedy that in a second.
One day we will be released from the fear of disease. We will tell the next generation what it's like to live through 2020. One day Jesus will return.
It starts at quite a nice point as well. Adds a little bit of drama.
But for both events, we wait in
That's quite nice. You will notice that the sound was a little bit off, and that's because my computer is struggling to cope with it, with two clips playing at the same time and a bit of fading and all sorts of things. But here, this little fade is quite nice. So you'll notice where that fades, it doesn't just fade to black, it fades to transparent. It's just if there's nothing there, that transparent is black. And then that fades into mine. So we need to make sure I'm not louder than Jenny. So we'll move to the start of this clip here. We'll click on me and we'll go back to the properties and we'll change this. You'll notice I pointed out before the little green markers here. These are what are called keyframes. And what we're going to do is you'll see how the keyframe performs in a second. So let's make this clip. We don't want it to be at 100% at all. We want it to be probably at about 10%. So you need to change this here to 0.1, and that will be 10%. We try it now.
We will be released from the fear of disease. We will tell the next generation what it's like to
So you
live
can just
through
hear the guitar over the top,
2020.
or underneath rather. Okay, but we don't want it to be at 10% all the way through. We want it to be at 100% at the end. So how do we do that? Well, we need to find the bit where we want to fade that back in at the end. So the best way to do that is to overlap with Jenny's fade out. So here, this little green marker here is where Jenny starts to fade out. So we want to put in a keyframe here. And that tells it between that point and that point we want it to be 10%. So here we go. If we right click on here and insert keyframe, you'll see the numbers here stay exactly the same. Okay, but at the end of Jenny's clip we want it to be at 100%. So we move to the end of Jenny's clip, make sure this clip is highlighted, that's Oceans, and we put that at 1. And watch what the volume does here. So it's at 10% there, all the way up, and then it's climbing up to 100%. So between there and there, it's going from 10% to 100%. You need to use your keyframes for that. If you were to simply just go, well, that's at 1% and that's at 100%, it will gradually start increasing in volume all the way up to that, and at the end you wouldn't be able to hear Jenny. So let's have a listen to some of that.
Know when either will happen, but for both events we wait in hope and trust in God. Amen.
There we go. And that's now at 100%. So we haven't had to visually fade this clip in. We've only faded Jenny out. So because Jenny's visuals take precedent over this one. Yeah. And that's it. So we've got a nice bit of overlapping there. We've got a really simple transition at the beginning. Let's just come out of here and let's see what I do at the end. Not a great deal. Ooh, big bang there. Let's just find the end of that clip. Sorry, another good tip actually. To find that bang is really difficult visually because you can't see it. There's nobody actually stood in the background with a big bass drum. But you will be able to see it if you look at the sound, which may sound a little odd. So if you right click on this clip and go to display, you can show the waveform or the thumbnail. The thumbnail is this, the little picture. The waveform is actually what the sound looks like, and it might just take a minute just to process this. And there we go. That's what it looks like. So that's all the peaks and troughs, and the larger these sort of spikes are, the more noise there is. So if we zoom in slightly there, you can see that here is where it goes bang. So it's all nice and silent here. Bang. Okay, so we didn't need that. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that clip ends just before that bang. And that is really useful if you're trying to find the beginning of some sound. Okay, so I've clipped that just before there. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to fade the end of the clip, fade out slow. I'm also going to fade the volume out just in case. End of clip, fade out slow. And that will go out very nicely. Beautiful. Okay, we do have the little Church of England disclaimer, but we only really need that when we use liturgy. So if anybody's going to do the big service with all the liturgy and things like that, I can get the end title to you then. But for this, we don't necessarily need it. You could put another title in here just to say thank you for joining us or something like that. I'll leave that up to you. You can figure out how to do that. If you want to explore any more of the things that this does, or any more of the functions, please feel free to have a go. You can't break things, but this is really the sort of the simplest one. I've even put in a little bit too much complication here with this clip overlapping, to be honest. It's fine to just use 3 clips, stick them side by side, fade them in and fade them out, and that's a simple enough service, which is all we really want to be providing in the interim weeks. So I hope you found that useful. Just to recap, we've done a little title here, we've got a song, we've got Jenny's sermon, and we've got another song to finish which overlaps. As I say, feel free to use as much or as little complication as you want. Just remember that the active clip is red, so anything you do on it will be red. You can highlight multiple clips by pressing Shift and clicking on the clip. Pressing the Windows key and highlighting the clip, and that would then move all these clips over here, for example. But we don't want to do that. But just remember, if you were to do that and you went 1, 2, 3, and then you right clicked and said I want to change the volume, it would change the volume on all 3 of those clips. So make sure you're only right clicking, you've only highlighted the clip that you need, and then you can do that. Okay, so that's done. What we now need to do is put it into a format that people can access online, and it's a very, very simple process, this now. So firstly, we need to make sure we've saved our project, because if anything goes wrong at this stage, we've done all this work and we could lose it. So if you go to save project or save project as, and it brings up this, I will save this straight into Dropbox in videos. I think it was November, nope, October, there we go, training vids, and we'll call it training service. Normally I just put worship, the date of the service, and then we know we can all find it in the right place. So that will have saved in there. Let's just have a quick check. Yep, there we go. So it's put in, that's the actual project, and that's the assets. So actually what it is things like the thumbnails from all the clips and the title and stuff. But you don't need to worry about that. Just make sure you don't move any of these files or any of these files, because when you reopen this, it knows to look for these files here. Okay, so that is done there. So that's now saved, but that still isn't in any sort of format that we can upload to YouTube. For that you need to export it. Okay, so the shortcut for that is this button here, the little red dot, or you can go to File, Export Project, Export Video. They both do the same thing. It automatically will make the file name the same as what you've saved it as, and it will automatically save it in the same folder. But you can change that by going to Browse. You can change the file name to whatever you want it to be. Training, I'll maybe call it Training Service 2nd January, just so that we know what that is. Now, the temptation here is to just go export video and off it goes. But what you've just got to make sure is that the sound is correct. I won't go into the technical details as to why you need to do this. If you really want to know why, I can explain it to you. Just drop me a line. But we need to change the bit rate of the sound so that it doesn't mess up. So you go into the Advanced tab here, you go to Audio Settings, and you change the sample rate here to 44,100. Simple as. Again, I won't go into the details as to why, but if you do want to know, then let me know. And then you can press Export Video, and it kind of looks like nothing happens, but it does. You'll see along the top here, it tells you the progress of that. From here on in, leave it well alone. Just go and make a brew, put your feet up, sit in a darkened room. As you can see, it's at 0.7%, and it's going to take 53 minutes to render the rest of it. 56. It's going up all the time. It takes about an hour to do a 20-25 minute clip, and also it depends on how much how many cuts and how many different clips and things like that you've put in there. But for about half an hour. It takes about an hour. It takes about double the time that the actual clip is, that the actual video is. So an hour's church service usually takes between 2 and 2.5 hours to render. But that's fine. There's nothing you can do once it's at this stage. That's it. Once you've done it, then it will be saved in the file that you've saved it in, and we need to upload that to YouTube, and I'll show you how to do that in the next video. So I hope that wasn't too complicated for you. If you need to go over the best bits, or if you need to rewatch this, then please do. But it's really as simple as just lining things up and fading them in and out. Okay. See you in the next video.